Welcome to part 2 of the Namoki 3-part series. Today I'll be using individual Namoki components to build a custom watch to include decorating the movement. As always, I'll want to first inspect the watch parts and especially the movement. I'll wind it up and make sure it's running. I'll start by removing the original rotor. I'm still trying to decide if I like these new carbon fiber tweezers for this kind of stuff. I feel like I don't have a lot of control. I was working on another project and I lost a screw when it went flying off and landed somewhere in the vastness of the carpet universe. Next, I'll remove the automatic train bridge. Man, these screws are tight. There are 2 screws you'll need to remove at each end of the automatic train bridge. Now I can remove the automatic train bridge. Now I'll add the decorative overlay. And I want to make sure that the overlay is seated fully, or the rotor will scrape along the overlay and the watch will not automatically wind properly. The overlay actually comes with some blue decorative screws, but I had set them aside and completely forgot about them. In fact, I forgot where I even put them, so I'll have to add those at another time. Here I'm just gonna use the original screws. I probably should have set these screws one at a time so one doesn't accidentally go flying off somewhere. You can see how much nicer the movement is already starting to look. Next is the decorative rotor. And just be careful not to over tighten that center screw. Now here's where I think these carbon fiber tweezers come in handy, just to avoid scratching stuff. Okay, well next we'll test everything out, make sure that the watch is winding. The new rotor really makes this movement pop now. And I really like the design elements in the rotor itself. Leave a comment and tell me what you think. I also want to check to see that the watch is still winding and that it's still working properly. Now I can add my dial. This is a watch that I'm building for my wife, and this dial was originally going to be a temporary dial because I'm in the middle of designing her a custom dial. In a future episode, I'll be showing you how I create custom dials along with another watch I'm building for my wife that will have a custom made dial just for her. So stay tuned for that. Because this dial has a date window, I need to synchronize the date and the hour and minute hand to the 12 o'clock position. To start, I need to pull the crown or stem all the way out to the 3rd position and turn clockwise until the date changes. Do this slowly and slow way down once you see the date start to change like so, and until it changes over to the next date. And now I can set the hands. And now I'll test everything out and make sure that the date changes over at the correct time, or rather at midnight. And that's looking pretty good. And last but not least, setting the second hand. All right, now I'm ready to place the gasket. Now this watch has a screw down case back and it's rated at 200 meters of water resistance. So she's not gonna have to worry about getting the watch wet. Oops. Okay, one last bit of cleaning. And now we can place the case back. And it's looking pretty sharp. Now my wife likes these mesh style bracelets, so that's what we'll go with. All right, here it is. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Visit our website at watchhobbychannel.com for more resources. Check out part 3 of this series where I'll show you how I troubleshoot hand setting challenges and other issues and how I regulate the NH35 movement. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. Until next time.